Water, 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 water.
My name is Morgan and I'm in the 8th grade.
And I'm Lisa and I'm also in 8th grade.
In one sentence, explain to me your knowledge of the California water drought.
There's a drought.
We don't really know what the water drought is. Nothing the California water drought is.
Do you personally feel affected by the water drought at this moment?
Not really.
I think no, because we don't really know that much about it, so we don't really know.
Okay. How do you feel realizing that if the drought continues throughout the years, your generation will end up being the most heavily affected by it?
Scared.
Yeah, I'm scared.
What changes will you be willing to make to help out the situation in California?
Take less shower. Not less shower.
I should have said those leftover dreams. Water, 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 water. But here's that rainy day. Here is that rain.
I'm John Cook. I'm Director of Sustainability at the University of California, Riverside. I've been here for about 4 years now. Office of Sustainability 4 years ago. We have a staff of 4. We have a lead analyst. Lead is Leadership in Energy Environmental Design. We have the R Garden Manager, which is a sustainable community garden. We have a Green Labs coordinator, who's our science advisor, and works on greening our laboratories on campus. And then we have myself, and I do system-wide and campus-wide sustainability. We're looking at the way we use our resources, whether those are financial, environmental, or social, people, in the most equitable way, the most just way for our community, for the campus, that helps us achieve the mission of the university, which is obviously research, education, and service to the community. UCR is a land-grant university, so we're very cognizant of that responsibility. So my office looks at our carbon footprint, our greenhouse gas emissions. We look at our water use, energy use, way transportation, connects to the campus, types of research and curriculum that might enhance our understanding of sustainability, waste diversion, what types of waste come on campus, how we can get rid of in the most economical but most sustainable way.
And then, so, what are your guys' views on being proposed by water districts on things like lawns and their suggested solutions?
So I understand why we want a quick fix to the drought problem, that we want to immediately drop our water footprint. And there's times where that makes sense. So on campus, we've reduced our watering by 15% across the campus. But we're not willing to let our lawns die yet. We would rather take the time to replace them, put in the right type of planting, the right type of watering systems, so that we preserve our trees, we preserve our heritage. The heritage of this campus is an agricultural campus. We're the Southern Experimental Station of Berkeley. We were a citrus experimental station. We don't want to lose that by doing something drastic that won't have the long-term impact that we're asking for. So sustainability is about looking at ecosystems, about looking at how everything comes together and forms a balance. So just cutting off all the water to let your lawns go brown or die, really what's happening, is not going to help us really, because it's going to throw the ecosystem out of whack. And we're going to increase our other issues or problems that we'll have to address. That eventually we'll find ourselves putting lawns back in, or some other solution, right? And it can increase the heat island effect, it can increase dust and pollution in the air, it can increase pest issues if we let that go. Also aesthetically it's not pleasing, it doesn't fit in. The dust that gets into the laboratory creates a different problem. It may increase our amount of energy use. Much of our energy is dependent on water towards generation in one form or another, and that's also a larger footprint. So there's I understand why we want to do it, and in certain cases it makes sense. You don't want to be watering your lawn at 3 o'clock in the afternoon because you're not watering your lawn. You're watering the air, basically, because so much of it is evaporating. It would be better if we had drip irrigation instead of sprinklers. Yes, again, for the same reason. But it would be better to take a holistic approach and realize that this is not just a one-time event, this drought, but it's going to be an ongoing event. Because of what we've done in the past, climate change is here to stay. It's going to continue to be drought-like conditions going forward. So let's look for long-term sustainable solutions now instead of short-term fixes. Having said that, there's other areas where we can conserve water that's just plain wasteful, and that's what we want to look at.
Okay, so then what is your stance with the effectiveness of reclaimed water for use in things like irrigation?
Well, I think we should be reclaiming all the water that we possibly can, right? So obviously they have to look at the balance of what it costs to do that, what energy it is. But one, I think water's underpriced, definitely on our campus, but across the world. And so we need to value water more as a resource and what its impact is on our future. Also, the idea of reclaiming or recycling water is, again, why should we just be one use, one through and throw it out? That's the whole point of recycling, is to find a new reuse for something. The same thing with water. We can treat that water either on-site or off-site and reuse it. Not for potable uses perhaps, but for a gray water system, a black water system, or for irrigation. We don't have the option really of capturing rainwater very much. It's too sporadic. It's intense when it is, and then you don't need it right after it's rain normally, and so then you have other issues. We're looking at maybe possibilities of changing that, some creative solutions. But really, anything we can to prolong the use of anything, whether it's something like water or energy or materials, we should be doing that.
Well then, so how would you say, would you say that taking a broader view and using energy smarter in general and water to imitate more natural processes would be a better long-term solution for the state? And
it would, because if you think about the state, 20% of the energy we use in the state is actually to move water. Right? Now we're fortunate we get most of our water local, UC are. So it's coming from the mountains, it's coming from the aquifers close by. It's being pumped here. We have our own rights to this water. We have to use what we hit, and then we resell it to the city. But every year we move the equivalent of 440,000 elephants across the campus in the weight of water. So just imagine over a year, 440,000 elephants slowly walking across the campus. That's how much water you're pushing around the campus in 365 days. That's a massive amount of weight that you're moving around. Every shower, 10-minute shower that you take with a regular shower head is around 180 pounds of water that you're letting go down the drain. So think about that. If we had to carry that water, we'd have a whole different appreciation, and we'd have a lot shorter showers, right? So it's thinking about those other impacts. What we eat, how much water is embedded in that. These are all issues that we need to think of the longer term, and not just a quick solution that we think makes an impact, like turning off water fountains. In some ways that makes sense, but you may actually end up wasting more water by having that water fountain inactive and creating other issues than you would have if you kept running it and you're recycling that water in the fountain. So it's using these things to make a better use of the water and understand what where water is, where we find it, what its uses are. We don't normally think about it. We usually think about it as for watering grass, taking a shower, brushing your teeth, and getting your drink. And it's much, much wider exposure to water we have. And then thinking about plastics. Plastics use a ton of water in their generation. So every time you have a plastic bottle of water, you're drinking 3 bottles of water for one. So that's what went into making that plastic bottle that holds the water. So again, anytime we can think about water in that sense, we'll actually get closer to really conserving water for the long term and changing our behavior so that we actually appreciate water more, value it more, and utilize it in a better way.
One area that many people don't consider in terms of water use is energy production. Water is used in power generation, in the transport and processing of fuels, as well as in the irrigation of energy crops, or crops that offer greater environmental or energy benefits. According to a study led by Tamin Yunos, director at the Virginia Water Resources Research Center, The most water-efficient energy sources are natural gas and synthetic fuels, while the least water-efficient energy sources are fuel ethanol and biodiesel. In terms of power generation, geothermal and hydroelectric energy types use the least amount of water, while nuclear power plants use the most. This reliance on water means that sectors of energy production can be heavily affected by water constraints. Whether these constraints occur naturally, such as in the case of droughts, or artificially as a result of increased competition, limits on water access can affect the reliability of existing operations as well as the viability of future projects. Water reclamation plants recreate the natural processes that occur when runoff enters a river. During primary treatment, heavier solid particles settle at the bottom of the tank, while lighter materials float to the top and are carried away. These heavier solids and lighter materials are called primary sludge and are removed for further treatment. The remaining wastewater moves to the second phase of treatment in secondary aeration and settling tanks. When dirty water flows downstream naturally, microorganisms feed on the dissolved organic materials, and these organisms require a steady flow of oxygen in order to survive. In the secondary aeration tanks, air is bubbled through the water so that these organisms can breathe. In the secondary settling tanks, the microorganisms clump together and settle at the bottom, where they are then removed and recycled back into the treatment process. Finally, in a natural river, clean water filters through the ground and joins the underground water supply. At the treatment plant, the ground is replaced by artificial filters, which remove any remaining suspended material. Finally, in a natural river, clean water filters through the ground and joins the underground water supply. At the treatment plant, the ground is replaced by artificial filters, which remove any remaining suspended material. These artificial filters contain layers of coal, sand, and gravel. The remaining water is then disinfected to remove any harmful bacteria, viruses, and chlorine.
Water, 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 water.
Energy is used in 5 stages in the water cycle. The first stage is extracting and conveying water. Extracting water from rivers and streams or pumping it from aquifers and then conveying it over hills and into storage facilities is a highly energy-intensive process. In California, the State Water Project pumps water almost 2,000 feet over the Tehachapi Mountains. The second stage is treating water. Water treatment facilities use energy to pump and process. The third stage is distributing water. Energy is needed to transport water. The fourth stage is using water. End users consume energy to treat water with softeners or filters, to circulate and pressurize water with circulation pumps and irrigation systems, and to heat and cool water. The fifth stage is collecting and treating wastewater. Energy is used to pump wastewater to the treatment plant and to aerate and filter it at the plant. On average, wastewater treatment in California uses 500 to 1,500 kilowatt hours per acre foot. By reducing the amount of water we use, we can lessen our demand on the energy-intensive systems that deliver and treat our water.